Namaste and a very warm welcome to all our lovely viewers out there. This is The Bookie and you are watching your host Sonakshi Datta. The Bookie is our space on the Goa Chronicle YouTube channel to speak about the beautiful world of books and their authors. And today on The Bookie, we have with us Somik Raha. Hello, Somik.
Hello.
Whose new release, Invaluable, Achieving Clarity on Value, offers a holistic framework to aid the discovery of the unique values that one has and to integrate them into the decisions one makes consciously. Living in the San Francisco Bay Area, Somik grew up in India and has lived and worked in the West for 2 decades now. And he continues to explore the intersections between technology, philosophy, and the human experience. So, without further ado, Somik, to begin with, firstly, I would like to ask you that why do you think that we need to make decisions which align with our values? And how do you think that this can solve the problems people face when it comes to decision making?
It's a great question, Sonakshi. Thank you for having me here. So, if we want to live a life of no regrets, then we definitely want to think about how we are making decisions. And if you think about what we've learned about making better decisions, there are 6 requirements to making good decisions. And they are you asking the right question? Do you have the right set of alternatives? And are you having access to the right information at the right time? But to tie this all together, what you need are values. And what do you want? If you are not clear on what you want, you will not know how to make the right decision for yourself. So I remember a very famous story, Alice in Wonderland, where Alice is in a fork in the road, and there's a Cheshire cat, and Alice is asking the cat, "Hey, which road should I take?" And the cat says, "Well, it depends on where you want to go." And Alice says, "Well, I don't really care much." And the cat says, "Well, then it doesn't matter which road you take." And the point is, if you care to get somewhere, then you need to know where you want to go. And in this work, Invaluable deepens that question and says it's where you want to go. Sometimes in life, we're not clear. Sometimes people are having a midlife crisis, or they are really confused. And there I found it very helpful to deepen the question to who do you want to be? And the who do you want to be question connects you with what is truly meaningful, matters, and allows you to then form your preferences. That's what makes your preferences valid. If you could think of who do you want to be.
Okay. So, secondly, how do you think that one can discover these unique values and what clarity do they need to have on them?
So again, that's a very good question. So I got good news and bad news. The bad news first is that our education system doesn't do much to aid us on this extremely intimate conversation with ourselves. So unfortunately, this is largely left to religion and our spiritual spaces. And nothing wrong with them. That's great. But this is such a universal problem that we need to develop a universal language, a universal mechanism of inquiring into these existential questions. So the mechanisms that I've worked on in this book is to create this democratically accessible language. Doesn't matter whether you have, you may be an atheist, you may be a theist. It doesn't matter which culture you come from. There are certain universal things that every human being faces. How can we touch on those? And how can we inquire into our deepest and most meaningfully held values? So so I would say, in answer to your question, the process involves letting go of judgment. Step number 1, like we've got to empty ourselves of the surface level disturbances and just allow ourselves to say, whatever we find, we're going to non-judgmentally inquire and deepen it. That's step 1. And then second is, we need some frameworks. Like, is the first thing that comes out of your mouth the value you want to then declare? And that is very dangerous, because I'll give you an extreme example. Like, if you were to go to the 1945, say before 1945, the Nazi era, and you were to ask the people in Germany there, "Hey, what do you value?" they would tell you very problematic things. They'll say, we want to, the people we don't like, we want to kill them as efficiently as possible. So do you want to say, yeah, okay, I'll be non-judgmental and now I want to help you? That's, you're not going to say that. And at the same time, a lot of judgment comes up. And the challenge is we don't have a language other than saying, I don't want to be your friend anymore. I don't want to talk to you. I don't have any mechanism to have a friendly conversation and interrogate your thinking. And this Dutch example is an extreme example, but we live in that same world today where we're surrounded with people who do not think like us. And again, we don't have any formal framework to say, let me inquire non-judgmentally and understand it better. And so the book, if we get deeper into that conversation, it gives a framework to understand whether the value I have claimed is really the right one for me, and do so in a non-judgmental way. So that's the entry answer to your deep question.
Okay. All right. So next, coming back to integrating the values we have and our decisions, how do you think that can be done?
So I have found that once we are clear about who we want to be, the path becomes incredibly clear. Like there's no more confusion. The confusion happens because a decision situation is complicated and we cannot feel our way through. And this is very counterintuitive. It's sort of people have these judgments about feelings, but what we're finding is that feelings are extremely important, and they help us know that this is right. You feel it in your bones. This is the thing you need to do. The challenge is complex decisions disconnect you from your feelings, and so you can't find your way through. And I have always practiced. So my field, my training is in this field called decision analysis. And it can sound a very heady field where we are looking at alternatives, strategy experts, and so on. But the way I'd like to practice it is, how do I restore my connection to my feelings, my gut? That is clouded in a complicated situation.
So as you already talked about feelings, my next question is about the same as you. Many people say that we should, keep aside our feelings and how we feel when it comes to making important decisions in life. So what role do you think these feelings play per se when it comes to decision making in everyday life?
So it's a very good question. And there we have the work of Danny Kahneman and Amos Tversky, Thinking Fast and Slow. There's multi-decades of work in that collaboration. It's a very good book, highly recommended. And it's required reading for anybody who either has an interest in making better decisions or wants to become professionally good at it. So, and the summary of that work in one sentence is, they have found that we as human beings suck at making good decisions. We systematically underestimate, we misunderstand probability all the time. So, and there are all kinds of biases. Now there are hundreds of biases people have cataloged. So that's all well and good. And if you take it too far, you would end up concluding, as you were saying in your question, that emotions are bad because they cloud your judgment. And we all know that if you get angry, your vision narrows, so you can't see alternatives. Then and you think you don't have more room, then you actually have a lot of room, but you just don't see it. So agreed. Okay, no problem with that understanding. But to say that emotions are all bad and have no nuances is, I think, going a step too far. Because there's, just as we have this research in how we suck at decision making because of biases, there's also multiple decades of research done in neuroscience on emotions. And what they have found, and they have studied people with brain damage, and we're talking about ventromedial prefrontal cortex, which is over here. So there's some astounding things there. And one of the first one, for me at least, is this is all the seat of both emotion processing and executive decision making at the same time. That itself should be a big clue that there is something interesting going on here. And so what they have found is people with damage in that area have very, they can tell good stories, they can analyze things, they can tell jokes, but one thing they cannot do is make good decisions. Like if you give them alternatives, they can give you analysis on each of them, but they cannot tell you which one they would pick. And the working theory is emotions are what help you learn about your preferences. So if you don't like something, that feeling you put a +1 in your neuron saying, I don't want this and I want that instead. And if you don't have that apparatus working, every alternative looks the same to you and you can never make decisions. So emotions are fundamentally important in forming preferences and our values layer. Without that, you cannot make a good decision. So I feel like that balances the perspective of going too far with biases. Yes, that's important. And at the same time, there are certain things, there are certain deep emotions, like your joy, your creative joy, that should not be outlawed, that we should inquire into what gives you energy, what gives you inspiration, and can we do more of that? So, yep.
Okay, so lastly, what I would like to ask you is, and I think this is the most important question as far as from the paradigm of the viewers is concerned. How do you think your book, Invaluable, could be the right helping guide for better decision making and communication? Because that is something most of the people, suffer with, have problems with.
So I think a lot of people have contributed to helping us make better decisions. I'm not claiming this is the best one for anybody. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. So if you look at do you have a copy of the book with you?
Not physically.
All right, no, okay. But if you go to the back cover, there is a disclaimer there. And the disclaimer basically says, don't read this book. If you read this book, it's dangerous. It might stop you from comparing yourself to others. Financial success may no longer be the marker of success for you. And if you're surrounded family expectations that you got to be successful financially, your family may not be very happy with the decisions you make thereafter. I'm not saying that it's guaranteed you won't make money. All I'm saying is if you follow a path of values, generally speaking, if you look at great businesses, people who've been very successful, they've been very clear about why they're doing what they're doing. But their path to any kind of success or the metric that we commonly look at is very non-linear. Some of them may make a lot of money and some of them may not, and they're perfectly fine with it. They're at peace. So somehow, and if you look around, we think, oh, the rich people, they've got it all sorted, life is great for them, but just look into their lives. And nowadays you have a lot of Netflix shows that give you a look into their lives. And the first thing you realize is they're not very happy. There are all kinds of things going on. So that's true for everybody. It doesn't matter how much money you have drama going on. And so this book takes a very incisive, makes a very incisive cut into who we want to be so that we can connect to our creative joy. So if you want creative joy in your life, you want to feel that my work stands for something, it should mean something to me, not by anybody else's standards, then this book gives you a language to support you in that inquiry. And I've used the framework in this book over and over again with many people in helping them map and be able to articulate their values. And over again, people have asked me, can you write a book on this so that we can spread it? Because I can only talk to so many people. So this book is my humble attempt in doing just that. It's a very counterculture book. It's there's nothing this book can teach you. Okay. Let me be very clear about that. I'm not here to tell you, oh, you should bring values into your life. It's the opposite. I'm saying that my job is to shut up and listen to you and listen to your values. And I'm training myself in how to listen so that your values can be heard. Now, if you are the one doing the listening, you need to do that for yourself. And if you have friends who can do it for you, then they will help bring out the values from you. And you can do the same thing for your friends. So it's a very counterintuitive counterculture book in that way. There's also the other counterculture aspect of it is a lot of people will say, it's a good idea to bring spiritual principles into work. That's great. Okay. This is not that book. This book is the opposite. This book says, in fact, every chapter starts with a puzzle coming from some wisdom tradition. And the answer it comes from a materialistic system. And by materialistic, I really mean the religion of materialism is counting or accounting, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the basic counting. And my claim is we have not fully delved deeply enough into those constructs. If we did, we would find they're actually quite philosophical. So all the wisdom here comes from those things that you see every morning in your office. You can only take so many sabbaticals. You go on a sabbatical, you do your yoga retreat, meditation, go to your, religious spaces, feel inspired, but then you come back, it's the same set of colleagues and you are being judged by the same metrics. So, and you're doing that far more than you can do these sabbaticals. So a big intent of this book was not running away from your workplace, but looking at it with a different set of eyes, using the same metrics that you are judged by and finding inspiration in them and how to do it. And I can go into examples if you're interested in going there, but that's what the book attempts to do.
Okay, but I would love to, have one example explained
Sure.
here.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So let me give you one example. Well, let me give you a metaphor and an example. So if you're in a company, in a for-profit company, then you may hear somebody say, "Hey, we need to double our profits." What I have found is the human brain shuts down when it gets directives like that, and it only comes up with junk ideas. Okay, no good ideas come out. But if you ask people, how do we deliver on the values we hold dear, something that inspires them, a lot of ideas come out. That's just how we are wired. And some of those ideas may actually be very profitable. So shifting how do you make money to what are our values and how do we deliver on them is the thing everybody can do just going into their office tomorrow. And if I take it one level deeper, a very good metaphor is, we all want good juicy fruits like mangoes. It's the end of the mango season. Now, if you just tell yourself, I want more mangoes, you're not going to get more mangoes. If you want to get mangoes, you have to first find a good seed. Then you find good soil, and then you nourish it, give it water, plant in the right season. You have to think like a student of nature, a gardener, or a farmer. And when you got everything down, even then you're not guaranteed the fruits. Last step is you have to surrender to nature and say, well, it may come, may not come. And that is a very helpful metaphor for metrics, because the metrics we are asked for in the workplace, whether for profit or not for profit, are outcome or output metrics. But they're not very helpful because they don't get you the output. What we want to think about are the input metrics. And the input metrics have to do with driving productive action that creates value. So I'll give you one more example. So we brush our teeth twice a day. The count of how many times we are brushing is not equal to what we are truly after, the output of dental health. In fact, you cannot measure dental health. And it's a bit of a waste of time if you try. Like, the best you can do is, here are the number of cavities people have. And if two people have the same number of cavities, you can't tell the difference without taking x-rays. So you get very complicated very fast, but not much value addition. But if you look at the input metric, how many times did you brush? What does that do? That drives the action of brushing. It's action that creates value. And that action is what we want to spark. And every human being, if you've been working in your job for some time, you have an intuition on what action creates value. Then ask yourself, hey, what metric will drive more of this action? That value creation is what you want to drive. And then over time, the accounting will happen. You will see it'll fall in its place. But this is something very simple and tangible that you can do right, the next day that you walk into your workplace. Separate your input metrics from your output metrics.
That was really lovely. All right. So, Somik, this will be all from my side today. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us on the Bookie. And I would also like to thank all my viewers out there. And I would just like to say that stay tuned to the Goa Chronicle YouTube channel, and do not forget that it is extremely crucial to discover the unique values which one has, which one holds, and especially to integrate them with our decisions, which we make consciously from our day-to-day lives. And it is also important to remember that feelings are important. And there should be a balance which has to be stricken as far as feelings and practicality is concerned when we are out there making the most important decisions of our lives. And all this will definitely culminate into a more fulfilling life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonakshi.